I'm going to say hi, not good morning, because that's the gift of having a service online. You can be watching this now live and saying good morning, but it could be in the afternoon, it could be in the evening. So it's a great opportunity for you to share this worship service with others on Facebook. But before we go to the message, I'd like to say a few words of acknowledgement. The Bible says, "Don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you." We find these words in the prophet Isaiah, chapter 41, verse 10. This weekend, we had to cancel our worship services here. And believe me, it was a difficult decision. But it was based, as Pastor Hattie wrote to our community, it was based on our commitment to the well-being of our brothers and sisters. I'd add that it is a commitment. It expresses our commitment to our biblical principles. We are trying to love our neighbors. And we are loving our neighbors as we are doing our best to protect them. We are being responsible and doing what it is in our hands, in our power to do. Are we happy? I cannot say we are really happy. But we are sure that this was the right thing to do in this moment of crisis. And I'd like to ask you, please do your part. Love your neighbors by taking care of yourself. And remember, don't be afraid and don't be discouraged, because God is with you. Thanks be to God. So last week, I was sharing about the day I committed my life to Jesus. It was a really hot weekend in Rio, and I went to a youth camp. And guess what? In the house the boys were staying, we had no AC. And it was really hot. So I decided to sleep in the porch for two reasons. One, I was hoping to find a breeze and some silence as well, because I didn't know anyone there. I was not friends with no one there. But a few minutes after I was in that porch, a boy came and said, "I'm going to sleep here with you." Soon after, the whole group came out to introduce themselves to me and to hang out, to chat. By morning, I was feeling home and with a bunch of new friends. Of course, feeling welcomed, feeling like I belonged, made it easier for me to pay attention to everything that was going on in that camp, for everything that was being said in that camp. And what I heard made sense, like it never did before. Jesus, who was God, became human and came to this earth to save me, to rescue me, and to rescue every human being willing to have faith in him. Jesus, God, my friend. Well, I already had a lot of friends, to be honest. But now, it was different. Jesus wanted to be my friend. So after that weekend, I did everything I could and everything I was told to do to know more and more about Jesus. And here lives the irony. I was investing my time to build a relationship with my new friend Jesus. And at the same time, I was distancing myself from my friends. Irony. I came to Jesus because I felt welcomed by strangers, because people were friendly with me, and because I really wanted to be friends with Jesus. I was discontinuing my relationships, my friendships. Irony. I take comfort that after a few years, I was able to reconnect with my friends, my high school friends, my middle school friends, my childhood friends. And I still have strong relationships with them, although now I live here and they still live in Brazil. But thanks to social media, thank you for the technology we have today, we are able to talk pretty much every day. And of course, when I go to Brazil to visit, we have at least one cookout together. However, it is not easy to maintain a strong relationship, and you know that, with people that you are not close, that you don't have a daily connection, or when you don't have enough intimacy, especially with those you want to maintain or to create or to build a relationship with. But here lives another irony, because if you have a business, if you are a business person, or if you are a public figure, you want to nurture, you want to have relationship with your clients, with your public, and you do what you can to do that. If you are a student, you know the importance to have a relationship, a good relationship with your mentors, with your advisors. You want them to know who you are and what your dreams are so they can help you to make good choices. So we all know the importance of building and maintaining relationships. But you don't see your mentor every day. You don't call your clients every day. You don't tell your secrets to your clients to have a relationship with them. But you know, as I already said, you know that it is important to have a relationship with people, to build relationships. And of course, we follow our own cultural norms to do that. In the passage we read today, there were different norms, different cultural norms to build up relationships and to maintain them. In this passage, we find Jesus calling Matthew to become one of his disciples. It is a passage that communicates a relationship being built up. And when we investigate the context of that passage, we learn how the biblical model of hospitality can help us to build relationships even today. I'd say that we find mainly two types of or models of hospitality in the biblical context. First, we call the welcoming the stranger. There were cultural norms and expectations to welcome the stranger. And also, there are other norms that would indicate an intention to build relationship, to build friendship with someone. So if a stranger came by your house in that context, you were expected, one, to greet that person, to welcome that stranger, to go out and greet them. Two, you were expected to provide for their needs, maybe some food, water, sometimes even shelter. Three, you would spend time with them. You were expected to dwell with them, having some conversation, getting acquainted. And four, sending them on their way. This is the welcoming the stranger type of hospitality in the biblical context. This concept, I think, could be adopted by our church. And if I'm honest, I believe we do the first two steps already. We do welcome people every week. And we do have so many activities that we are trying to reach out to people and to provide for their needs. In First Coral Gables, we have a strong partnership with the Chapman Foundation. We do the Thanksgiving with branches. We just did 2 events for couples because of Valentine's Day. And recently, maybe 2 weeks ago or less than 2 weeks ago, we had a movie night for the kids, the kids of our school, the kids of our community. So we are trying to connect, to welcome people, and to provide something for them. And I would stay here hours if I was listing everything we try to do to connect and to provide for people. But in my opinion, we could improve the third step, dwelling with people. Of course, it is great to be able to serve those in need. But creating the space to listen to them, creating the space to share our own stories to them, this would take that connection to another level, don't you think? Well, let me offer you a hypothetical example. Let's say we're building a house to a family in need. They don't have shelter, they need shelter. We are trying as a church, as a community, to provide a house for them, to build that house. It is a great project, it is a great deed. However, building that house with the family who will live there, sharing meals with them and sharing life stories with them would have a greater impact in their lives, don't you think? Because when we dwell, we become part of their lives. And this is what I mean by dwelling with the stranger in our context. Sending them away means to direct them to take control to their own lives and move on. Sending is important because it avoids a relationship based on dependency. Another way to demonstrate hospitality to someone in Jesus' context was to invite them to dinner. You would invite guests, the guest of honor. You would invite your friends and even your neighbors. Maybe the poor, because you wanted your guest of honor to know that you are a good person, that you are a welcoming person. So, another thing is that if you did that, if you were inviting people to a dinner, people would understand that as a sign, as an intention to build a relationship, to build a friendship with that person. So when Jesus accepts Matthew's invitation, he should expect to be received by Matthew with a feast, and his friends, and of course the whole village would know about it. A respect rabbi being honored by a rich person with a dinner. That was totally normal and in accordance with the norms of hospitality of that culture in that moment in history. However, there was something really wrong here. Matthew was not an honorable man. Jesus was, but Matthew was not an honorable man. His friends were not honorable men as well. They were exactly what the Pharisees said in the passage we've read. They were scum to the Jewish people. They were tax collectors. They helped the Roman Empire to oppress the Jewish community, and they became rich by doing so. And Jesus accepts to mingle with those scum. He eats with them. He laughs at their jokes. He calls Matthew to be his student, his disciple, his friend. That was a scandal. The scandal of hospitality. The scandal of Jesus' hospitality. Because although Matthew was hosting that dinner, it was Jesus who was opening the door of his kingdom to that tax collector. Jesus was opening himself to build a new relationship with Matthew. He was showing to his disciples, his Jewish disciples, and he was showing to the whole community that he was willing to sit and eat with those sinners. Jesus did not treat Matthew as a lower person. Jesus treated him as a regular person. And when the Pharisee complains about his attitude, Jesus replies, "Healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do." Then he added later, "Now go and learn the meaning of Scripture. I want you to show mercy, not offer sacrifices. For I have come to call not those who think they are righteous, but those who know they are sinners. Those who know they are sinners. I confess that only when I was in seminary, that I was able to see Jesus building relationship with those who were excluded, with those who were socially awkward and ostracized. Through my whole Christian journey, I was so focused on trying to figure out how to please God and how to obey His commandments that I missed the most important lesson. Jesus came to build relationships with those who are lost, so they could be found. Jesus came to build relationship first. Jesus came to build relationships with the lost so they could be found. The Bible is showing us the transformative power of hospitality. It is through relationships that we can influence people's lives. We are called to embrace that hospitality as a lifestyle, I believe. It is not our primary mission to teach people how to live. I believe it is our primary mission to share life with people, to create space, a safe space, so people can build community. And this lifestyle is exciting and life-changing, actually. We never know what it can bring to our lives. I remember when I was working as a realtor in Rio, and I would really invest in building relationship with my clients. There is this family in particular that I like to talk about. They came once, I was working, they came to see a new apartment complex, and I took them on a tour, showed them the apartment, and instead of going back to the office to talk about numbers, I decided to sit down there in the apartment to talk about numbers. And when I noticed that they really didn't like that apartment, they were not interested in buying that, I started asking questions to try to figure out what they wanted. And as soon as they saw that I was not trying to sell them a property, but I was trying to help them find the place they wanted, they finally opened up. We found another place, they bought it, and they referred me to 5 more friends and families. They became my friends. They were in my marriage ceremony. In fact, they made their son to be my wife's chauffeur. The boy drove my wife to the church. They didn't want me to spend money with limo. And they said all this happened because I treated them with respect and because they noticed I cared. Building relationships, building community, caring about what really matters is so important. It can change lives. Taking risks to build those relationships can save lives. Right now, during this coronavirus crisis, we cannot be there shaking hands and connecting with people as we like to, as we are used to do. But it is a great opportunity for you maybe to call those friends and relatives that you don't speak that often. Let us be creative. Let's be hospitable, even in the moments of crisis. Let us use these seasons of Lent to reflect about that. Let us ask ourselves if we are making the efforts to be a community of people who are welcoming. Let us ask God to guide us and help us to be the church He wants us to be. Let us reflect on our willingness or not to leave this scandalous lifestyle of hospitality. So if you don't remember anything I said this morning, take this with you. God calls us not to teach people how to live. God calls us to share life with people, to be there for people, to be welcoming. These can have a great impact to our community. And I believe the world needs that. The world expects that from Christ Church. So may God help us. Thanks be to God. And if you believe that this message can be a blessing to someone else, please click the share icon on YouTube and spread the word. And may God bless you. Be safe.